Okay, so next we're going to implement the map function. Map is going to transform one sequence into another sequence using a function. So let's start writing that. So if I say it's going to need to be recursive, so map is going to be a function. It takes in a function, and this function has type from tick A to tick B. Okay, so it takes in this mapping function. It also is going to take in a sequence, which is t of tick A. Okay, and then the return type is going to be a t of B. Okay, so oftentimes this A and B are going to be the same type, but there's a possibility that they won't be, and that's fine. So we're going to support that as well. All right, so a lot of these functions are going to start looking similar here, but the thing we're going to do is we're going to match on the result of calling the sequence, so the first element in the sequence, first node in the sequence. So if this is nil, then we've sort of come to the end of the sequence, so there's nothing really to map. We just return not nil, but an empty sequence. And sort of another way to say this is we could just return seq itself, since that's interesting how that works, because this is of type tick A, but we're returning it. Okay, well, I'm going to use empty there. Okay, and then the interesting part, if we do cons and we have an x and then the rest of the list, then we need to sort of, we're not destroying the list, we need to sort of return the same thing that we're given. So we were given a function of cons, so we need to return a function that returns cons. Okay, so we're just going to, instead of x here, if I wasn't mapping at all, I could just say x and then maybe recursively call map on f and the rest here. Unfortunately, that doesn't do anything. That would just give us the same sequence back. So we have this function. Let's actually use it. So that's where we'll actually do the mapping. We're really just returning the exact same list, except this is the only thing that's been modified. We're just mapping over all the elements. Okay, next let's do filter. So this is also going to take a function, but this function is going to be sort of a predicate function. So we're going to accept something of type A, and we have to return a Boolean. Okay, so this function, if it, it's going to be applied to each element in the sequence, and if the function returns true, then we'll keep the element in the sequence. If it returns false, we're going to sort of drop it from the sequence. Okay, and then we actually need the sequence, so this is going to be a t of type A. And the overall result of this function is going to be returning something of the same type. It's just, it might be shorter. All right, so to actually write this, again, we're going to do switch. And we're going to get the first node out of the list, out of the sequence. If it's nil, there's nothing really we can do, so we just got to return not nil, but empty, the empty sequence. And if it's cons and we have x and rest, then we need to actually switch on this. So we're going to say if f of x returns true, then we got to keep this. So it's going to look very similar to this up here. So in that case, we're going to return a new cons with x, and then we got to do the rest of the list still. So we'll call filter recursively using f and rest. So that should handle that part. But if this predicate returns false, then we need to sort of drop this from the list. And let's just return filter of the rest of the list. Okay. I think there's actually even a little bit cleverer of a way to phrase this, if I add an extra match here, so I'm just going to add a condition on here. We can say when f of x is true, let's make this case only about the true case where the predicate returns true. Then we don't need this. We can kind of just return that immediately. Okay, and then we are going to need one more case here to catch the case where the predicate returns false. And we can say rest. We actually don't need to name this variable since we're not even going to be using it. And we can just return filter of f on the rest. Okay. So once again, we're always returning a function from these branches. So empty returns a function that returns nil. This is a function that returns a cons. And filter itself, returns a t of tick a, and t of tick a is a function. So in each of these cases, that's why it's type checking.